There is a prayer that heaven values more than any other, and it may have been made by you without even realizing it, Elias. What did Jesus say about your prayers made lying down, without words, in the silence of the night? Hello, I will tell you throughout my account. My name is Elias Hartman. I am 53 years old, live in Amarillo, Texas, and have been working as a truck driver since I was 22. You know that kind of life where everything is on the road, truck, gas station, loneliness, and the old radio that only works when it wants to. That was my routine. Nothing extraordinary, but also nothing easy. My wife passed away 7 years ago after a battle with cancer. Since then, I have become a quieter man, but inwardly my only son moved to another state, and we hardly speak. When silence settles within us, even God seems far away, you know? Do you know? I always had faith, never stopped believing, but over time I started to feel wrong, especially in prayers. I saw those preachers speaking out loud, kneeling, full of beautiful words, and there I was, tired, alone in the truck cab, or stretched out on the bed of a cheap motel trying to talk to God, but lying down in strength. And then came the guilt. Does he hear me like this? Is this respectful? Every night was this struggle, between the faith that still kept me breathing and the weight of guilt for not being the ideal Christian. I thought prayer needed to have a perfect format, the right posture, the right words. And if it wasn't like that, God wouldn't hear it. It was with this tired, confused heart, but still seeking, that everything happened that early morning, a night that seemed ordinary but changed everything. I died, and what I saw on the other side destroyed all the wrong ideas I had about God. It was almost 2 in the morning when I pulled the truck into a roadside station on the stretch between Wichita Falls and Lubbock. The air brake had started to hiss in the middle of the mountain, and I decided to stop before the problem got serious. The place was deserted, only the sound of the wind, the flags fluttering high, and some light poles fighting against the darkness. I opened the side of the cabin, grabbed my flashlight, and went to the rear axle. I crouched down, fiddled with some connections, and that's when I felt it, a sharp, dry stab right below the rib, as if something had torn inside. I still tried to get up, but my legs gave way. The flashlight fell from my hand and rolled across the gravel floor. I tried to call for help, but my voice wouldn't come out. My head was spinning. I leaned on the bumper, breathing with difficulty until everything became blurry. It was as if the air was disappearing and time was stopping. I fell sideways, half curled up in my own arm, looking at the flashlight's light there, blinking slowly, as if it was fading along with me. I didn't see an ambulance. I didn't see anyone running. Just silence, a silence that swallowed everything. I realized I was dying, alone, on the cold ground, without beautiful prayers, without time to ask for forgiveness, without bent knees. Just me, the dark sky, and the feeling that my heart was stopping. But suddenly, everything changed. The cold disappeared, the pain was gone, the weight of the body vanished as if I had taken off a lead armor. When I opened my eyes again, it was no longer night. It was no longer the gas station. I was in another place, a place so full of peace that words do not do it justice, as if every atom there sang silence. And it was there in that place of living light and breeze that did not come from the wind, that I heard for the first time, a voice that pierced my entire soul. Elias. It was not just a call. It was as if someone who had always known me was waiting for me, and at that moment I knew I had died. But what would come next would be the greatest revelation of my life. The place where I found myself did not seem to have ground, nor sky, and yet there was firmness under my feet, and a light above me, alive and welcoming. Everything around was calm, as if time had surrendered to eternity. There was no sound, but there was melody. There were no words, but everything spoke. A peace so deep that it made me cry, without tears. Suddenly, in front of me, a presence began to form. It was not like a physical body, but I knew exactly who it was. My heart screamed before reason even understood. It was Jesus. He did not arrive with lightning or shouts. He simply was, as if he had always been. And when he looked at me, there was no judgment, no coldness, no demands, just a love that pierced all my wounds, all my sleepless nights, all the "God forgive me" that I never said out loud. He walked slowly towards me, and when he stopped before my eyes, he smiled, a smile that came not just from the face, but from all eternity. And he said, "Elias, I heard all your prayers. I felt my legs weaken, but there in that reality I never fell." He continued, "Those you made while driving, those you murmured lying down before sleeping, even those you never finished. I heard them all. I wanted to speak, explain, apologize for not praying more on my knees, for dozing off while praying, for feeling unworthy. But he knew everything, and before any word came out of my mouth, he touched my shoulder and said, "Come, I want to show you something." And then, everything around me transformed, as if the clouds moved within eternity. A new scene opened before me, and what I saw forever changed the way I understand prayer, and how I see the heart of God. The scene before me opened like a living window in time. It was as if I was inside a thought of God. I saw myself, but not as I saw myself in the mirrors of the world. I saw my soul, fragile, tired, but still fighting for faith. I was lying down that same winter night inside the truck, with half-open eyes and heavy breathing. I barely had the strength to pronounce his name. On. Jesus pointed to that scene and said, "That was one of your highest prayers I will bring." How so high? I barely spoke. I just thought, just wished, just hurt. But he continued, "Heaven does not measure volume, it measures truth." He extended his hand, and like a veil being torn, other scenes began to emerge. I saw an elderly man praying, lying in a hospital, attached to tubes. I saw a woman crying silently in the dark of the room, unable to kneel because of depression. I saw children praying with their heads on the pillow, speaking softly so no one would hear. I saw myself younger in my 20s, still with my wife alive, praying lying next to her, thinking it was little. All these moments, Jesus said, rose like incense before the Father. He then looked into my eyes, and there I felt that no mask could resist. He saw everything. And yet, he smiled. "Elias, many of my children think they need to perform for me to hear them. They kneel, but their minds are far away. They make beautiful prayers, but do not give me their hearts." At that moment, he showed another scene. I was kneeling years ago in church, using rehearsed words, trying to appear strong, but my mind wandered. My heart was dry. "There," Jesus said, "I saw the form, but I did not see you. Here," pointing to me lying down with a sweaty forehead, tired and murmuring, "O Lord, hear me." Here, I saw all of you. And I responded, "That dismantled me. You thought you were doing little, but you were giving me everything you had." It was then that Jesus extended his hand over his chest and said, "It is here that prayer begins. Not in the body, not in the posture, but in truth. The Father seeks worshipers who worship him in spirit and in truth." His words did not sound like a sermon. It was as if my spirit remembered them, as if I already knew, deep down, that it was always about this. And when the soul lies down in me, it is when I hear the most. Jesus extended his hand, and as if heaven folded over itself, I was transported to another vision. It was night, a dark and cold night, in some desert I did not recognize, but in the center of that desolate landscape, there was a man lying on a rock, with open eyes staring at the sky. It was David, not the king in glory, but the fugitive, alone, pursued, vulnerable. Jesus whispered, as if reading my soul, Psalm 63 verse 6. On. "When I lie down, I remember you. I think of you during the night watches." David there, stretched out on the hard ground, without crowns, without soldiers, without a temple, just with his heart exposed before God. New one. There was no sung praise, nor eloquent prayers, just thought and thirst for the divine presence. "There," said Jesus, "there was no posture, just presence." And then, once again, the visions multiplied before me like gentle waves. An elderly bedridden woman, murmuring, "Lord, take me when it is your time," with tearful eyes. An unemployed father, lying on the couch, praying silently not to wake the children. A lonely young woman in the dark of the room, speaking to God for the first time in years, lying down, afraid to kneel and not know what to say. Jesus looked at me with tenderness, as one who understands the weight of what no one sees, and declared, "Elias, the night is not absence, it is an invitation." Beds become altars when the heart turns to me, even if the body is tired. It was then that he pointed to me, that early morning of my death, lying on the ground at the station, trying to say something, but unable to. And he completed your last prayer, even without words. I heard his praise, because heaven does not demand performance. It recognizes surrender. I started to cry, but it was not sadness. It was a cry of liberation, as if all the years of guilt, of comparison, of effort to appear someone before God were being undone there. "It is in the vulnerability of the night," said Jesus, "that many find me without a mask. The tired soul speaks more truth than 1,000 rehearsed speeches, and at that moment I understood the bed where I thought I was failing. It was the altar where God visited me. Before we continue, just one request. Please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep going. Before continuing, just one request. Subscribe to the channel. This helps us a lot to continue. The early morning when I could only make a mess was the place where the sky leaned in to listen. The visions began to change. The soft light that once filled the environment gave way to denser scenes. They weren't dark, but heavy. Jesus took me to a place that seemed like a large assembly. Hundreds of people, all kneeling, some crying. Others repeated memorized prayers with fervor. But there was something strange. Nothing rose. It was as if those prayers didn't leave the ground, as if they echoed only within their own mouths. I saw people with perfect posture, but empty eyes, hands raised but locked hearts. Jesus looked at me with sadness in his eyes and said, "Not all reverence is true. Not all posture is surrender." He pointed to a woman who prayed eloquently with a firm voice, hands extended upwards, but around her, I saw small mirrors floating, all facing her. It was as if her prayer was more about being seen than heard in heaven. "This one," Jesus said, "time to maintain her image, she seeks me, but with filters." Then I saw a man in an impeccable suit, kneeling at the altar of a church. His prayer seemed intense, but Jesus showed me what was happening inside him. Thoughts of judgment, comparison, spiritual vanity. It was as if he was on a stage, seeking approval, not forgiveness. "They pray beautifully, but they don't pray truly," Jesus affirmed. "And they think that by kneeling, they impress me? That broke me. How many times have I tried to pray the right way, just to feel accepted? How many times have I repeated words, hoping to feel more spiritual and left empty? Those scenes showed me that pride can hide even in prayer. "Elias," he said, "the prayer I love is the one that doesn't try to impress me, just finds me." And then, as a contrast, Jesus showed again that woman in the dark room, lying down, crying without words, an elderly man with Alzheimer's, repeating the same phrase to God before sleeping, a young drug addict, trying to pray with teeth clenched from withdrawal. "These," Jesus said, "don't know how to pray beautifully, but they are true, and I am pleased with them." He looked at me and concluded with firmness and compassion. "Kneeling can be a holy act, but if it doesn't come from the heart, it's just a gesture. The bed, the floor, the bench, everything becomes an altar when there is truth. I seek children, not actors." After that sequence of revelations, we remained silent, a silence that said more than 1,000 words. I felt as if everything I had carried inside my whole life had finally been exposed, understood, and healed. Jesus walked beside me on a kind of luminous path. The colors around were indescribable. They weren't colors like those on earth. They were like living emotions. Every step we took, I felt the weight of my past being washed away. It was like walking inside grace. We stopped in front of a vast field. In the background there was an immense tree, like I had never seen. Its leaves seemed like liquid gold, and each one whispered words I didn't understand, but felt: peace, freedom, home. Jesus looked at the tree and said, almost as if talking to himself, "It is here that many rest after the battle. It is here that those who have finished their race are welcomed." I felt my eyes burn. Part of me wanted to stay. After everything I had seen, how to return, how to face the world after having touched eternity. It was when Jesus turned to me and spoke with a firm voice, but full of tenderness, "Elias, I brought you here not to hold you, but to prepare you. Your time has not yet come, but your calling has arrived." He extended his hand, and before us appeared one last vision, this time, of the real world. I saw my body, fallen on the ground at the station. 2 paramedics running, one of them shouting my name, and at that moment I realized there was still time. Jesus held my shoulders and looked into my eyes, and what he said was engraved in me like fire. "Go back and tell my children that I hear, even when they are lying down, even when they think they have failed, even when they can only whisper. Tell them that the bed can be an altar, that the early mornings are sacred ground, that tiredness is not shame, it's a bridge." My throat tightened. My soul wanted to obey, but my heart still hesitated. I trembled inside. It was then that he said something that broke me down. "Elias, that last prayer you tried to make before dying, I heard it all, because I hear even what the heart cannot say." And then with the last touch on my chest, he completed, "You did not disappoint me. You found me. Now go and help others to find me too." In an instant, everything went dark when I opened my eyes. The first thing I saw was the cold light of the ambulance flashing on the ceiling. Everything was blurry. I heard voices, machines beeping, someone calling my name. My body ached. My mouth was dry, and the air seemed to tear my throat. but I was alive. Against all odds, I had returned. One of the paramedics was holding my hand, as if he had just saved an old friend. I couldn't say anything. I just cried, and it wasn't from the scare. It was because I knew, in the deepest part of my being, that something had changed forever. I had not only escaped death, I had known heaven, and more importantly, I had been touched by Jesus. The doctors said I had an internal collapse, that the fact they found me so quickly was a miracle. But nothing they said explained what I felt inside, a different peace, a new clarity, and a mission that pulsed in my chest. I needed to tell what I had seen, what I had learned, because the world needs to know that God does not reject those who are too weak to kneel. After I returned home, my life remained simple. I am still a truck driver. I still spend long nights alone on the road. But now, every stop is an altar. Every cheap hotel bed is a meeting place, and every early morning, no matter how silent, is an opportunity to talk to the Father. I no longer pray with fear. I don't blame myself when I pray lying down. I don't compare myself with rehearsed prayers, because I know, with all that I am, that God hears the heart. He doesn't expect a show. He expects the truth. And the truth is that even when I thought I was failing, He was already listening to me. What an incredible and transformative story. The Bible reminds us, in John chapter 4 verse 23, "But the hour is coming, and now is when the true worshippers will worship the Father, in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship Him." Thank you very much, Elias, for sharing this profound experience with us. And to you who watched until now, may the blessings of heaven invade your cell phone, especially in the quietest early morning. Remember, God does not expect performance, He hears the truth. See you in the next video.